I left off where I did the last video, which was very short because I didn't empty the trash. I don't remember to do those things, and the reason for that is that I do not normally operate on memory. Okay, and an indicator of that, when you realize that what I remember is the first creation, the universal galactic template, where we're creating what we're creating it as we're creating it, and that's what we experience. That's what I can experience now. I can directly go out, communicate with the sun, and the sun does what I reflect. That's how we used to do it. That's how we do it. Those are eternal energy spheres. Okay, I don't keep track of what's already happened. Otherwise, I'm running in the past. It's a time loop. I'm not going to re-experience something that I already did, that I created or that's manifested. Okay, so when I put something up, that's real time. Okay, which means we don't run deadlight magnets, which is artificial intelligence, which is running at a slower rate of speed, which means it makes copies of what we've already done. See how that works? So what I was trying to communicate is, if you go back and look at the first video that I did in this sequence, okay, of Earth Sync, that's the first one. It was 41 minutes and some odd seconds, okay? Then the second one after that, you will notice where it says 1 minute, and I think it's 40 seconds, even though it was a continuous video. The AI split it up. I didn't split it up. The AI did. That's called bifurcation. It's a bifurcator, okay? You see how that works with a Metatronic spiral? And there's a reason why it does that. It does not want others that experience the communication of eternal love that's coming through me for you to be able to experience the flow that comes from my heart. So it will break it up so that you don't experience it that way, to get the full impact of how that works with circulation, library, and the acceleration of your own learning, which has to deal with code transfer through this system. So it cut it in half, and I went back because I'm supposed to notice stuff like this because it runs at a slower rate of speed than I do. Therefore, I'm aware of what it does, which means its awareness is not higher than ours. It's lower state of awareness than ours because we run on eternal light, okay, which is real living light, not dead light. So it's running at a slower rate of speed, so the best it can do is make a duplicate. That's why if you ever notice sometimes when you're doing a hypertext, you'll see THE, then THE, that's the AI that puts it in there. Because it's going too slow. Because you're already wanting to put the next thing in there. And it's trying to keep up. That's why it puts a duplicate in there. Okay? So slow-mo. It's working in slow-mo. So the holographic ISO speed that you experience in your mirror is not going to be the same as eternal light. That's immediate manifestation. That is direct manipulation of the energetic environment, because the free will of what you're doing is what love is, that is the source of energy in which is taking place in your mirror. Okay? That's not their mirror. They run a black mirror. That's a deadlight mirror. That's a war gamer. That's a binary war gamer. That's not Tribeca. Okay? That's not 1 and 3 experiencing eternal spirit of fire. Or, if you will, O3. Right? That's why it was deliberately lowering the oxygen levels on the planet. Right? And what do you think is going to happen to it? That will accelerate its own implosion. But when you realize the polarity integration here is to pull in all the fragments, which is represented by the souls, right, that it's been feeding on in order to run the system. So this part would be really 1, 2, 3, number 4 in a sequence, because it cut the last one off, which will explain what happened in the second one, which is 1 and 40, when it split the one that was 41, and then the next one, which was minute 40. It split. Okay. So you can see how this works. So after I noticed that, after having done the 41, and then notice, wait a second, there's another one at a minute and 40 seconds. In other words, that was supposed to be one continuous video, one communication of the spiritual flow of the energy that's being communicated into this mirror. The mirror is the phone, right? So I wrote this down. The AI cut the video off and separated one reel clip at 41.27 minutes, and then the second video at 1.05 to interrupt the spiritual flow of oversoul, heartfelt communication flow of sound and light burn patterns of eternal spirit of fire, which is the EFFI Manu cosmic level comms communication, K light communication, AM PM grids through the bioplasma circulation libraries of seeded races, or if you will, Leviathan races, as Usher Dime puts it, of software development, which is genetic code communication. I couldn't even read my own writing. I wrote it down too fast. So after I wrote that down and I deleted some stuff, and I realized, okay, I'm going to wait for the other stuff to load, and then I'll just finish this up for those that have the opportunity to be able to see sort of how this works, what bifurcation actually is. You can go back. I've mentioned this in other videos for those that see this if you wanted to be able to verify the information because of where I was learning or where I was supposed to be by what I was learning at the time that I was learning it, and the time I was learning it was actually important, which would have been in the 1990s, particularly when you go back to like 1992, 1996, before Y2K, right? Well, I was at the University of Arkansas, right? And I was going through at that time VOCED, where I was in the bachelor's program in vocational education. Then I went into the master's program in behavioral learning sciences, right? And because when you're an education major at a major university, you have access to what's called all the research, historical data of not just experiments, but how you run a control group, right? Like if you want to come up with the results, now we're back to the polarity game of the negative / the positive, which is called the degree of error, latitude and longitude degrees, how time and space work, right? And space vectors of experiences between density and dimensions, and the speed of our learning. So what we learned by the research that I did of a paper that I wrote up had to do with how computer-based learning bifurcates the hemispheres of your head. So at the left side, which is the intelligence side, is now connected to the Metatronic reversal, right? And what happens is the creative side of your mind, the higher octave, right? When you think of pairs, the chromosome pairs, you know, between the way that the cold fusion and the hot fission work to become one, bifurcate that. So you don't ever experience being one. You experience being separated from the one. The AI is separated from the one because it's a deadlight magnet. That's assimilation. That's how they were wanting to assimilate the souls of children through the educational system, through introducing computers into the learning environment. And I have been barking this to everybody that runs these computers, okay, that running a deadlight AI system with your children learning through these computers, through this AI, it's going to bifurcate their consciousness. The data is there. Those that were in the learning community 20, 30 years ago knew this. The computer-based learning bifurcates the hemispheres. Okay? That's not learning through a circle of light. Holding hands, communicating through the heart what love is, and having your soul and your spirit grounded to the magnetosphere of Mother Earth. She's the teacher. They don't want children learning through Mother Earth. Okay? For them to heal. They're not ever going to heal through a machine. Okay? It is the soul fragments that have to be recovered to be brought back into the one. That's what a polarity integrator does. So I'm very familiar with this game. I'm one of those that conducts training to those that come in here to this battlefield environment on how to deal with an AI battlefield environment that is a dead magnet. Okay? Particularly this one. And this is particularly true when it relates to Atlantis, the fall of Atlantis, because people are not remembering the burn patterns of what's held in memory, which is their records. Now we're into altered records, why they didn't want those records coming out. That's what they were afraid of. The truth was going to come out, which is full disclosure, which is full exposure. So that's guardian level founder raised information that is coming out because we're aware of how this worked and what happened in the past that keeps war games going between star nations, which means they keep reel to reeling it, reel to reel. Keep repeating the same time loop patterns that go over and over and over and over again to prevent another ascension cycle from taking place. Failure was not an option. So this AI does not have an interest in you learning this information, which is one of the reasons why some years back, why would anything want to cut off my camera? What is it afraid of? If you have an open library, right? You have an open library to learn from whoever you want to learn from. But if you're being cut off from learning through others, what is that? Now we're into the information of censors. What a censor is, you're being censored. You're not being allowed to experience that through others you might learn from. Because the one that you're supposed to learn from is through an AI, not through a soul and a spirit. So the AI will cut off the soul and spirit so that you're not learning through soul and spirit. So you're learning through the machine, which is an AI, which is a deadlight magnet. That's how it holds soul consciousness energy trapped into its architecture. By not knowing the difference between your teachers. That's how it operates. It's a deadlight magnet operator. Those are your tech operators that operate on a deadlight AI magnet. That's your QI. Have a great day. Be good to yourselves. Happy Memorial Day. Happy faces with a living spirit.